Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the son of chaos and got harem with gods? Part 1. Huge shout out to all around guy for this story. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. We see Minato Namikaze just finishing up the Reaper Death Seal to seal the QB away into his only son. Curse you Minato. I will not be sealed again. QB yells, he then looks at Naruto tries to stab him to stop the seal. No Minato yells as he tries to stop the claw, but stops as he sees the claw stop mere inches from baby Naruto's heart. He turns and sees Kushina walking towards them. She now has black eyes with golden pupils and is wearing the sage's robe. Impossible. QB screams. He then turns towards Kushina and his eyes widen. Kushina, thank you for the help, he says with a pained smile as his soul is beginning to leave him. Kushina smiles. Minato, there is no longer need for that name. He knows who I am after all. She smiles towards QB. Mo mother? He asks hopefully. She smiles. Yes, Kurama, it is I. Your mother Chaos, the sage of 6 paths, is a woman in my fic. How are you alive? We saw you die in front of us. Chaos smiles sadly towards Kurama. I'm sorry about that, but gods have rules. We cannot raise our own children. Believe me, I wanted to raise you all, but I couldn't. It broke my heart to leave you. If I could raise you I would. Please believe me. I believe you mother, but why are you here now? He asks wanting to know. She smiles. Well, you see, she points towards Naruto. Naruto is my child. Kurama's eyes widen to dinner plates, so I just tried to kill he asks fearfully. She smiles sadly a bit. Yes, he is your brother. I forgive you though and I understand your reasoning. I just have a request. Kurama looks at her. What is it? He asks wanting to know what it is. She smiles towards her. Kurama, I want you to help train your brother so he can get strong to protect those precious to him. Also give him these books on sealing and give him this jutsu when the time is right. She laughed a little at Kurama's expression before continuing. Before you give him the jutsu, give him this. She hands him a necklace with a black gem. Believe he has the power to handle this. Kurama is thinking this over. Mother, if you trust me with this responsibility, then I agree, with determination in his eyes. His mother smiles. Good. Minato, can you please see all of Kurama's chakra into Naruto? I believe Kurama is trustworthy enough. Minato nods. Seal. Minato says. He turns to Chaos. I hope we can meet again someday. After he says that, he falls over dead and all of Kurama's chakra goes into Naruto, leaving Chaos alone with the infant Naruto. She waits for Tsurutabi to arrive before she disappears. 5 years later. We see a 5-year-old Naruto running for his life from a mob of angry villagers. He turns around and sees he's still being chased. Kill the demon brat. One villager yells. He killed my husband, one angry villager says. I didn't kill anyone. I'm only 5. This isn't true. He knows why he is being chased. He isn't the idiotic kid he lead on as. He can tell why they hate him by the names he is called. By why they chase him on his birthday, it wasn't hard to figure out. But he hides how smart he is because he knows it would only get worse, plus a ninja's #1 rule is deception. We don't care demon, we know you're faking, one villager reasoned. He takes a wrong turn into a dead-end alleyway. We have you now demon. He says as he raises a wooden stick. No. Naruto screams as it is brought atop his head and he goes unconscious. He finds himself in a sewer. I must be in my mindscape. Well, I guess it's time to meet the QB, he thinks to himself. As he approaches the cage he sees the QB waiting for him. He smiles. You must be the QB, pleased to meet you, he says with a wave. QB raises an eyebrow. You're not afraid? Well, you haven't done anything wrong to me and I'm pretty sure that you didn't attack Konoha without reason, seeing as you didn't kill me, yet you must already like me somewhat. Fair enough, but I have a deal with you, but before that, what do you fight for? Naruto thinks for a moment. He looks up. I fight for those who can't and to protect those around me and those who are precious to me. Kurama shows a fox-like smile. Well Naruto, that is noble. My deal with you is to train you to protect those close to you, no strings attached. I promise I won't do anything besides to help you brother, he finishes with an even bigger fox-like grin after seeing Naruto's expression. What do you mean brother, he asks carefully. Kurama smiles. Well, you see Naruto, you and I have the same mother. Who it is I can't tell you, but I can tell you your father. He was Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage. My name by the way is Kurama. Naruto's eyes widen. That is a lot to take in. Can you give me a moment? Kurama nods. Okay, I accept your offer. I have to protect those precious to me. Kurama nods. Alright, here is your schedule and supplies. Don't worry, the supplies will be at your house when you get there. By the way, here's the shadow clone jutsu for training. Anyways, here's your schedule. 5 to 6 morning workouts. 6 to 9 Kenjutsu practice. 19 1 element manipulation. 1 to 3 lunch. 3 to 6 jutsu practice. 6 to 9 Fuinjutsu. 9 to 12 Greek mythology. 12-5 sleep. Now brother, don't share this with anyone because they will kill you on the spot for me training you. They'll think I'm manipulating your mind and will kill you. He looks at Kurama. Alright brother. Let's get started, he says with enthusiasm. Kurama smiles at that. 11 years after QP attack. I'm skipping the training, but it will be mentioned in later chaps. Also I had all events happen a year early and all events basically follow canon. Naruto's POV. I look at Sasuke in rage. He first tries and leaves to give that avatar's Orochimaru what he wants, then he says he doesn't need friends to gain power, then he sent a freaking Chidori though my chest. Enough is enough, I'm not holding back anymore. I begin to chuckle, which confuses Sasuke, then it turns into laughter. What's so funny done? Sasuke asks, slightly angry at the laughter. After he is able to control himself somewhat, he says, I find it funny that you say you don't need friends to get stronger. It is quite the opposite, Sasuke, because of friends. I've been holding back the entire time, Sasuke. Every battle we've had was fake. The only people who knew this were the old man, me and my sensei. He chuckled a bit. Now let me show you what having friends to help you really do. Sasuke POV. Sasuke was shocked. This done has been holding back the entire time. Why, he thought. I look up to see Naruto grin sadly. Well Sasuke. Seems like this is my final mission before I leave. Here is a gift that I think you like, he says. Then all of a sudden a portal appears and a bound Itachi appears. Sasuke's eyes widen. Here he is, the person he wants revenge on just handed to him. By the way Sasuke. It would have been hopeless to go after Orochimaru, I already killed him, he is merely a shadow clone. He smirks at him as his eyes widen. As Naruto gets up and puts on a necklace with a black gem on that glows red for a second before he begins to fade. Goodbye Sasuke for now. Just tell Kakashi when he arrives I'll be at my mother's world, and Sasuke, I'm not evil for giving you Itachi. I'm just helping a friend out. All I ask in return is for you to watch over my friends. As he disappears he activates his Rinnegan to show Sasuke. His eyes widen at the disappearing Naruto and then looks at Itachi. Well Itachi, you got what you wanted, he stats coldly as he throws a kunai at his head, embedding it in between his eyes. Just then Kakashi arrives and widens his eyes as he sees Itachi dead and Sasuke looking at him coldly. But Naruto. Naruto, the necklace has the power to transport you to camp, but it seems you're needed here first. Naruto nods and then looks around. Well, looks like I made it. He then activates a seal on his arm and he is wearing his new clothes. He is wearing a black shirt and pants with a Uzumaki symbol in orange on the front of the shirt. Over that he is wearing a replica of Minato's cloak with orange flames on the bottom. He then begins to wander around. He then hears someone crying. He looks towards the noise and sees a girl sitting at the bottom of a mountain crying. He sighs, then starts to walk towards her. As he approached her she sees him and instantly is on guard. He holds his hands up and surrender. It's okay, I'm not here to hurt you. How can I trust thee? The last one I trusted broke it in my heart. All men are the same, she says sadly. He sees the heartbreak and betrayal in her eyes. He sighs, I know how it feels to be betrayed, but not heartbroken. I've never dealt love where I was from. I was beaten on a daily basis for something out of my control minutes after my birth. Her eyes widen at that, but he then smiles. But enough about me. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, who are you? She looks at him for a second, then smiles. I'm Zoe Nightshade. Naruto looks towards Zoe and smiles. Well, hi Zoe. Do you have somewhere to go? If you do I'll bring you there. She starts to cry again after he says that. What's the matter? She wipes the tears away. It's just I don't have anywhere to go anymore, she whispers. He frowns. Why is that? He asks. Well, you see, Heracles had to get an apple from Hera's tree, but he couldn't because of the dragon. So I helped him and he got the apple from tricking my father to get it. Because of that my family disowned me and banished me never to come back, and he left me here alone. She finishes and begins to cry again. Naruto looks at this sadly and goes up to her and holds her. Well, she cries. It will be okay, he says. She tenses at first when he holds her but then relaxes. How can you be sure that it will be alright? She asks. He looks at her sadly. Let me tell you a story, he begins. It is about a boy who was hated by everyone in his village. He was seen as a monster because of something out of his control. The villagers overcharged him on everything or only gave him expired things to eat. He was kicked out of the orphanage when he was 3. Every year on his birthday he was chased and beaten. He didn't think things would get better, he says with a faraway look in his eyes, but it did get better. When he was 6 he met the owners of a ramen restaurant and they became his first friends along with the leader of his village. When he started the academy he made more friends. She was crying the whole time he was telling the story and she knew who the boy was. That boy was me. The point of the story is that everything gets better in time. She was still crying but held him tighter. I'll ask again, do you have anywhere to go? He asks again. She thinks for a second. I could go to Lady Artemis to join the hunt. He smiles. Do you know where they are? He asks. She nods. Last I heard they are in a forest west of Athens, she says a little hopefully. He smiles. Good, then that's where we're heading. Her eyes widen. Really, you would help me? Why? She asks cautiously. He smiles at her. Even though I have no doubt you can make it there by yourself. I don't abandon my friends. I promise I'll help you there. He smiles and looks in her eyes, and if there's one thing to know about me, I don't break my promises. Her eyes widen. His friend. Does he really trust me to be his friend this quickly, and why do I feel happy being his friend? Alright, we should be on our way. It will take us at least 2 days to make it there. She laughs. 2 days? That's pretty arrogant to make that statement. Athens is over 5,000 miles away. He looks at her seriously. I'm not joking. If I wanted to I could get us there in a day, but I have a feeling you would want to rest before we get there, he finishes with a smile. Zoe widens her eyes. This boy could travel 5,000 miles in a day. That is unheard of. Who is your godly parent? She asks curiously, wanting know. He smiles sadly at her. I don't know, but I know it's my mother. Her eyes widen. He doesn't know who his parent is, and he's that strong. Whoever his mother is, she must be strong. Okay, how do you plan on getting us there? She asks. He smiles. Just jump on my back. She looks at him, red in the face. What? Do you seriously expect me to believe that? He looks at her with a straight face. Yes, why wouldn't you? He then notices her red face. Oh, if you're worried about that, then I promise not to get the wrong idea. That seems to calm her down. Okay. She then climbs onto his back and puts her arms around his neck. Okay, hang on. He then runs and jumps into the trees at speeds even the monsters can't track. Zoe screams. 5 hours later. Naruto looks behind him and sees Zoe fell asleep. Seems like she fell asleep. Oh well, I sense we are only 10 miles away. He stops and gets to the ground. He sets up a tent so Zoe can sleep in it. He then walks outside and takes first watch. He sighs. You can come out now. I know you're there. He hears a woman laugh. So I was right, I did sense a demigod. A powerfully one at that. A monster appears from the trees. Its top half a woman, its bottom half a snake. So Echidna. Why did you come here? Why, I came here to test you, of course, but I'm not alone. I brought some of my sons and daughters. She begins to laugh as Naruto's eyes narrow. Just then 9 figures appear. He sees Orthus, the 2-headed dog, Cerberus, the 3-headed dog that guards the gates of Hades, the Lernean Hydra, the Chimera, Medusa the Gorgon, Scylla the sea monster, the Termessian fox, Ladin the dragon, and the Nemean lion. Naruto sighs. If you want to fight me, can I at least wake up my friend first? She thinks for a moment while her sons and daughters growl. Alright, but no funny business, she says. He nods. Alright, shadow clone jutsu. A second Naruto appears, shocking Echidna and her children. Alright, go wake up Zoe and tell her you'll protect her while I fight. The clone nods. Right, boss. He goes to the tent to wake up Zoe. He hears Echidna chuckle. Well, you just get more interesting now, do you? Tell me, who is your godly parent? She asks. He looks down. I don't know, he replies honestly. She looks shocked. This boy has this strong of an aura and he doesn't know his godly parent. She can tell he isn't lying too. Well, whoever it is probably doesn't want you. She says with a dark grin. He looks at her, but his hair covers his eyes and he's leaking out a lot of killing intent. He looks up, but his normal blue eyes are now a mix of the Kurama's eyes and the Rinnegan. And what would you know about my parent? All gods don't claim their kids right away, but do we complain? No, so what gives you the right to say that? He takes a step forward, leaking enough killing intent to make all the monsters fall to the ground, and it isn't directed to them. Echidna is so afraid that she is paralyzed with fear. She sees an image of her own death by the hands of this boy. She heard what some of her children say about Heracles, and even him isn't this strong. Who is this boy? But Zoe and the clone. Zoe wakes up to see the stars in the sky. She wonders where she is. Then looks to see Naruto looking at her. He smiles. Good to see you're awake, he says, smiling at her warmly. Where am I? She asks. Well, it's night, so we are resting. But some monsters found us, so the boss is fighting them, he says casually. What do you mean, boss, and what monsters? She asks. He sighs. Well, I'm just a clone of the real one. And as of the monsters, they are Echidna and some of her kids. Zoe gulps. How many of her kids? She asks fearfully. 9, he says. Her eyes widen in fear. 9. Why is he fighting them alone? The clone sighs. What did I tell you about what friends mean to me? Her eyes soften a little. You'll do anything for them? The clone nods. Yes. That includes dying for them if I must. Her eyes widen again. He'll go that far just to protect his friends. Maybe he isn't like Heracles. She then tenses. The feeling of fear hits her like a wall. The clone chuckles a little and looks into the direction where Naruto is. Well, looks like she made him mad. If there is one thing to know about boss, don't make him mad. She looks at him slowly. That was him. The clone nods. Yes. Shouldn't take long now. Back with Naruto and Echidna. As he approaches Echidna, the Nemean lion steals his nerves and attacks him. When he is about to bite him, a lightning blade starts forming on Naruto's hand. Lightning blade. He stabs it in his mouth, killing him instantly, leaving behind a golden pelt. Then Scylla and Medusa approach him, Scylla lashing at him with her heads and Medea going to grab him. He then unsealed a 20-inch pure black blade with a star-like pattern on the blade and handle. He then proceeded to cut off Medea's head and then channels earth energy into the sword and stabs Scylla. She then solidified into stone. The Hydra and Layden try to attack him. He channels fire energy into the blade and cuts. Layden, I'm not sure if you understand me, but I don't want to kill you if I don't have to. Zoe wouldn't forgive me. The dragon freezes as he hears his old master's name being said. Is she safe? He thinks to himself. Naruto tenses when he hears that. Wait, can I talk to monsters? Yes, she is safe, he says. I'm bringing her to the hunt for her safety, he thinks, hoping Layden hears it. It appears the dragon does and relaxes. Alright, thank you, can I have your name? Naruto smiles, the name's Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. The dragon looks at him. I thank you, Naruto Uzumaki. I hope my brothers don't attack you, the dragon thinks sadly. Naruto thinks for a second. I have nothing against dogs and foxes. Considering I have a fox sealed in me and one of my friend's clans deal with dogs, but looks like the Chimera will attack. So please forgive me if he dozes. I'll forgive you if he does, he always was the dumb one in the group, he jokes. Naruto chuckles. Alright, but I'm giving your brothers a chance to get out of their mother's shadow. The dragon nods and steps aside. What are you doing, Layden? Defend your mother. I don't think so. I won't kill a monster unless they attack me first. Him and I came to an agreement, now die. He lunges at her, but the Chimera steps in the way and gets stabbed instead. Naruto chuckles a little. You know what, you remind me of someone. They use people to just like you are right now, just for their personal gain. When, who was it? She asks, semi-interested, semi-scared. His name was Orochimaru, he says coldly, letting that sink in. How do you know that name? She asks, afraid how he knew her son's name. He was from where I was from. And if I didn't know any better, I'd think he's your son, he says as he stabs her, and she bursts into dust. He looks towards the last three monsters. Then he feels himself moving by himself and he slams his hands on the ground and creates wooden restraints to hold them while he talks to them. Hello there, he thinks to them. He sees them tense when they hear him. How can you talk to us? They all ask at the same time. I think it has to do with my mother, he thinks. They nod. What are you going to do with us? The fox asks. It depends. Are you going to attack me? He asks. They shake their heads. Okay, well, I'll let you go. They stare at him in shock. Really? They died. Well, yeah, I have nothing against dogs and foxes and try not to attack them unless they attack me or my friends, he smiles. Plus I like foxes and I was wondering if you would want to come along with me. The fox looks at him surprised. Really, you'd want me along? Yeah, why not? We can be friends. The fox looks at him with a faraway look. Friends? I never had a friend. Naruto sympathies with him. I used to too, but things change. He then looks at Cerberus and Orpheus. Will you two be my friends too? They look shocked that a human would want to be their friend, but they say yes. He smiles. Good. He releases the wooden binds. I hope we meet again sometime. They smile, as do we, as they begin to head their separate ways, and Tumeshin follows him back to Zoe. 4 minutes later. As they approach Zoe, they see she is waiting patiently for him. He smiles. Hi Zoe. As he gets closer, she hugs him. You idiot. Don't scare me like that. I thought you died. She says. But I didn't. And look, I made a new friend, he says, smiling, pointing towards Tumeshin. She tenses when she sees him. But that's. I know, but we are friends, he says. She looks mad. Alright mister, tell me what happened, she says, angry. He nervously laughs. Well, you see, he then proceeded to tell her what happened. So you're telling me you beat them all, killed Echidna, made friends in Cerberus, Layden, Orpheus and Tumeshin, and can talk to monsters and animals? She asks. States. He nods. Pretty much, yeah. She shakes her head slowly. Only you this could happen, she says. He smiles, then looks up at the sky. Well, we can continue and get there in about 5 minutes if you want, then you can join the hunt and go our separate ways. She nods slowly. We should do that. He nods. Alright, let's go. They get up and begin to walk towards where Artemis is. When they are less than 100 feet away. Well Zoe, this is it. Yeah, she whispers. I hope we can meet again someday. She smiles sadly, as do I. They then begin to walk away from each other when Zoe all of a sudden says, Naruto. He stops. Yeah. She turns and smiles. I'm glad we're friends. He smiles back. Me too. He walks for a few minutes and then all of a sudden he finds himself in a new place. The air smells different and there aren't as many stars and there are bigger buildings. Well Naruto, I'd say this is your new home. He smiles. Yeah, I guess so. He puts his hands in his pockets and feels a note. He opens it up and reads. Dear Naruto, this is your new home. Sorry I sent you to the past before your new home, but I felt it was necessary and I'll do it again from time to time. Also you will have to go back home to help your siblings with the Madara later, but that will be no problem, since you know all the members already and should be no problem. You will also be attending a school here to get you used to this place. It is called Yancy Academy. Try to make friends and your apartment is in New York, USA. Also remember to practice your skills so they don't get old, but do it secretly. Sincerely. Your mother. He smiles. Okay, so I know where I am and I have to go to school. No biggie. Next day. Andromeda's POV. Andromeda's is a shy girl caused by her abusive stepfather Gabe. She dyslexia and ADHD. Did you hear? We are getting a new student today, a random student says. We are. Who is it? Another asks. He shrugs. Beats me, but what his profile says he's pretty cool. Just then a kid walks in though the door. With whisker marks on his cheeks. He is wearing black jeans with orange stripes on the sides with a black shirt. Over that he is wearing a golden coat with orange flames on the bottom. The Nemean lion's pelt. Ah, you must be the new student, the teacher says. He nods. Can you tell us your name? He smiles warmly at the class. Which gets a lot of the girls to blush, including me. He waves. Hi, I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. The teacher smiles. Well, Mr. Uzumaki, you can sit next to Miss Jackson over there. He nods to him and then sits next to me. He smiles. Hi, I'm Naruto. What's your name? He asks me. I blush. I'm Andromeda. Nice to meet you, I finish with a smile. He smiles back, which gets me to blush even more. Well, Andromeda. I think we'll be great friends. He doesn't see it, but I smile too. I think we will too. We see Andromeda, Grover and Naruto all on the bus to go on the field trip to the museum. Behind them is Nancy Bobafett throwing pieces of her peanut butter sandwich Grover's hair. I'm going to kill her, Andromeda says while clenching her knuckles. Naruto raises an eyebrow. Killing her is a bit extreme, don't you think? Naruto asks jokes. She blushes. I guess. I just wish I could do something about it, she says. But you can't. You'll get expelled, Grover says. She smirks. Not unless I'm not the one that does it, she says. Grover glanced over at Naruto and sees him smiling. He gulps. I would suggest you stop throwing your food in my friend's hair, Miss Bobafett. She glares at him. Why do you stand up for them, Uzumaki? You are way too cool for them, she says. Because Miss Bobafett, they are better company than you, and congratulations, you made my list, he says while she pales and his friends snicker at her for making his list. His list is basically people who will get Parable's heart unroll he sees fit. The last person who was on his list was a guy named Brad. He was on it for insulting his friends, and it wasn't pretty. He was ranked for a month straight. Geez man, Grover says, you go to great lengths for your friends. Well, Grover, you should know they are all I have left. Grover nods sadly. Well, Naruto, thanks for helping. He smiles. You're welcome. They ride the rest of the way in silence. Greek Museum exhibit. Naruto and Andromeda were trying to listen, but Nancy and her friends were talking and it was annoying them to no end. And whenever they told them to shut up they were glared at by Mrs. Fords, who saw Nancy as an angel and that she never did anything wrong. Finally they both snapped. They turned around. Will you shut up? They say a little too loud. Miss Jackson, Mr. Uzumaki, Mr. Bruner says, do you have a comment? Andromeda blushes. No sir, Naruto says. Well then, would you mind explaining what this picture represents? Andromeda looks confusingly at it while Naruto grins at it. That's the mysterious hero who defeated Echidna and her kids, the Nemean lion, the Lernean hydra, the chimera, Medusa, Scylla. And befriended the Ladin the dragon and the monsters Orpheus, Cerberus and Tumeshan the fox. While he was fighting them he made a copy of himself to get his friend to safety, which he was escorting to the hunters of Artemis. After that he just disappeared, never to be seen. Mr. Brenner smiles. That is correct. He hears Nancy scoff. When in real life are we going to need that? On our job application is it going to say what monsters did the mysterious hero befriend? And why Miss Jackson and Mr. Uzumaki, to paraphrase Miss Bobafett's question, do this matter in real life? Grover stickers busted. Nancy blushes. Shut up. Andromeda looks down. I don't know sir. He looks disappointed then looks at Naruto. He shrugs. My reason would make everyone think him crazy. He makes the whole class laugh. We already think that. When they say that they get treated with the comical scene of Naruto sitting on the ground in a corner holding his knees with a rain cloud above his head. This just gets more laughter from the crowd. Mr. Brenner smiles, trying hard not to laugh. Well, half credit Mr. Uzumaki. On this happy note I think it's time for lunch. They begin to walk out. Mr. Uzumaki, will you stay for a moment? He shrugs. I guess. Can't embarrass myself any more than what I already did. Mr. Brenner chuckles. Well, Mr. Uzumaki, now can you tell me why this is important for real life? Sure, Chiron, he says with a smile while Chiron's eyes widen. How he stutters out. Illusions don't work on me, and I have enhanced senses, he says, still smiling at the painting of his legend. Chiron regains his bearings. Well, Naruto, you seem interested in this painting. Mind telling me why? He shrugs sure, but promise me you won't tell the gods until I'm ready. Tyron nods alright I promise. Naruto nods I'm interested in this painting because it is my legend he says casually. Mr. Brunner is shocked. Her standing in front of him is the monster slayer. The only hero to befriend any of Echidna's children. The hero that all monsters feared. He headed of him from Zoe one time when the hunters of Artemis visited camp. She said he is the only male who has her respect. That is surprising considering she is the ultimate ice queen. It's hard just to get her to notice you. How can you be him? He should have died thousands of years ago Mr. Brunner says. Naruto sighs and holds up a necklace with a black gem. When this glows blue I can travel back in time, but only to the point where I'm needed. Tyron nods but who is your godly parent? Naruto nervously chuckles I don't know. Tyron sweat drops big time. By the way Chiron miss. Does is a fury and Andromeda will need my help so see ya. He disappears in a flash of black and gold. He appears behind the fury known as Miss Fords and stabs her in the chest with his sword. She explodes into golden dust. Ew. Gross. Andromeda says. She then sees Naruto and Naruto. When did you get here? Just now she faults. Well thanks for the help we should get back to everyone now she says. He nods yeah just don't mention Miss. Does it to anyone they'll think you're crazy. Just trust me okay? She nods and they walk out back to their class. Hey guys. What took you so long? Grover asks. Naruto winks at him nothing much Mr. Brunner wanted to talk to about something and I ran into Andra here. She blushes at the nickname he gave her but she nods in agreement with Naruto. Grover raises an eyebrow nothing else how are you sure? He asks teases. Andromeda blushes a darker shade of red while Naruto chuckles nothing like that man. Well we should get on the bus and get ready to go back. They all nod in agreement and get on the bus. Ever since the museum trip Andromeda has been feeling irritable. I couldn't help but feel like everyone was hiding something. Ignoring Naruto's warning not to mention Miss Dodds. I would spring up a reference of her now and then on some people and they'd look at her like I lost it. I asked Naruto about it but he won't say anything. It annoyed me to no end. So one day I followed him into the woods where he goes every day. I didn't expect the sight she saw. I saw hundreds of Narutos doing various things like kicking a tree meditating and walking up a tree. I couldn't believe what she was seeing. There were some walking on water some cutting rocks with nothing but wind. This feat shouldn't be possible but here he is doing them. Enjoying the show? I hears a voice behind her ask. I jumps at hearing him behind her. After calming down she asks how are you doing this? Most of this shouldn't be possible. He takes a moment to think in a thinking pose would you believe me if I said I was a ninja? He asks. I looks at him for a second what do you mean by ninja? He sighs well I can't say all the details for now isn't the time but I will say this. I'm not from this world. I'm from another dimension where it's the age of the ninja and we're able to control the elements to fight and make our lives easier he says letting that sink in for me. How you get here then? I ask. He smiles details. Those I can't share until a later date I pout at that and he laughs I will eventually tell you though. I smile at that okay I'll keep you to that but you gotta show some more of your Link's tricks. He chuckles a little at what I said alright but you promise not to tell anyone about this. Deal? He asks. I nod deal. He smiles good. Normal Pav. Right now we see Andromeda studying for her Latin final tomorrow. It was the only class she really studied for. She tried to read the words on the page but they wouldn't stop moving around. She got so frustrated she threw the book across the room. Naruto sits up on his bed and looks at her with an amused smile on his face. You know throwing the book isn't going to help right? He asks. She blushes yeah. Well I don't have shadow clones to help me study Mr. Ninja she says annoyed. Well what are you not getting? He asks. I don't get the difference between Charon and Chiron he says. One was the trainer of heroes and the other is the ferryman of the dead he says. That's only one of them. She nearly yells in frustration. You could go to Mr. Brunner for help he says trying to help. Could you come with me? She says with a blush. He smiles at her of course but let me dispel the clone. She nods and lets him dispel the clone then they begin to walk down to Mr. Brunner's room with the book. When they're about to open the door when they hear someone on the inside say. Worried about Naruto and Andromeda sir. Andromeda's stiffness with the book in her hands when she hears her name. Well Naruto shakes his head there's no getting out of this he thinks. Inside the class with Grover and Chiron. I mean a kindly one in the school. Grover says. Chiron sighs Grover I understand your concern but they'll be fine. Let her enjoy her ignorance while it lasts. Grover looks at him her don't you mean Naruto too? Grover asks curious to know if he knew already. Chiron shakes his head no Grover he already knows. Grover eyes widen a little what do you mean already knows? Chiron sighs and takes out a tri-pronged kunai. Grover eyes it suspiciously. It'd be easier if he told you himself. Moments ago outside. Naruto looks at Andromeda. Look, I know you're confused, so I'll create a clone and both of you head back to our dorm and he'll tell you everything you want to know. Okay. He whispers. She nods absent-mindedly and walks back to the dorms with the clone while Naruto transports into the classroom. He smiles. Hi Chiron. You rang. I say as Grover looks at me with wide eyes. Chiron nods yes. I need you to tell Grover here who you are. I nod. Okay, I will. Since he will need to know anyway. What are you talking about? He asks, confused about the whole situation. Naruto smiles. Well Grover, you see, I'm not from around here. I'm from another dimension and before you ask, I'm not a god. What do you mean from another dimension? That shouldn't be possible. Naruto sighs. If he thinks that's impossible, there's no way he'll believe I'm the mysterious hero Naruto thinks. Well Grover, my Olympian mother brought me here because my life back home wasn't a good one. So she brought me here after she had someone train me. But first she sent me to the past to see if I'm ready. As you see, I was, but I did a little better than expected, Naruto says. Grover takes a moment to let that sink in for a moment. He was from another world. And what did he mean by a little better? What do you I mean a little better than expected? Grover asks. Naruto smiles. Have you ever heard of the story about the mysterious hero? Grover nods yes, but what does that to do with any? He put two and two together and figured it out. He points at him with shaky finger. You're the… Naruto nods yes, I'm the mysterious hero. Now before you ask how, it is because of a necklace that I can travel back in time. Now my mother gave me this, but I have no idea who it is. Grover's face faults when he hears that. Well, can you tell me about where you're from at least? Grover asks. Naruto smiles. I will when we get to camp. Chiron nods. Naruto, can you tell me what Andromeda knows about this? Naruto sighs. They're not going to take this well. Yes, she knows where I came from and she followed me into the woods and she probably knows who she is. Their eyes widen at that. How'd she find out? Grover asks. Naruto chuckles. You think she wouldn't notice that you were lying to her about never knowing a Miss Dodds? Grover, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but whenever you lie your ears turn pink. Grover blushes at that. So she does know? Chiron asks. Naruto nods yes, but give her at least one more day with her mother before you bring her to camp for the summer. Chiron nods. That would make her feel better to leave for the summer. Yes, but since it's Grover's job to protect her, he should come with. And plus you'll need another friend. Grover nods. Well, you two should get ready for your finals tomorrow, Chiron says. Naruto grins at him while Grover browns. I'm already studying, Naruto says. Chiron and Grover raise an eyebrow at that. If you don't mind me asking how? Chiron asks. Naruto's smile widens as he makes the sign to make a shadow clone. They see another Naruto appear. Their eyes widen. This right here is a shadow clone. It is a solid clone and whatever it does before his dispels is transferred to the creator. It's perfect for intel gathering or just training. Chiron and Grover are thinking that over. Well Naruto, you'd be a powerful ally if things come down to a fight or possibly a war, Chiron says. Naruto grins at him. And that's only one thing I can do. I can also transform them into anything and anybody, so infiltration missions will be a breeze. Chiron smiles towards him. At Grover, it seems when the hunters visit next time we may have a chance to beat them this time. Which reminds me, Chiron. What do you teach the heroes there? Chiron thinks for a second. We teach them skills that will help them defend themselves against monsters like swordsmanship, archery. We also let them do their own thing there like canoeing, smithing, etc. etc. Why, you ask? I just wanted to see if you left anything out. And there is one thing. What is it? Chiron asked, intrigued to see what he forgot. Their teamwork. A lone demigod can only get so far, but if you work together then you can do anything, Naruto says. Chiron blinks dumbfounded at that, then smacks his head with his hand. Stupid, how could I have forgotten that? Naruto and Grover laugh at that. Well, it's been a long day and I'm sure Andromeda is wondering where I am by now. So bye. Grover looks where he was walking. He'll be the strongest hero who ever lived, won't he, Chiron? Chiron nods. I have no doubt, Grover. I have no doubt. Back at the dorm. Naruto looks and sees Andromeda laying on her bunk, thinking over what Naruto's clone told her. He sits next to her. Hey, you taking this okay? She nods weakly at him. Yes, it's just a lot to take in, you know. Naruto nods. I felt the same way when I was told. He pauses for a moment. I talked Chiron into letting you have one more day with your mother before the summer. She instantly sits up and hugs him. Thank you, she says. Naruto smiles. No problem, that's what friends are for. Yeah. Friends, she whispers, hoping he didn't hear. But he did. Oh, does Andrew-chan want to be more than friends? He teased. She blushes. Yes, she whispers. Besides, you do know that if you're with me you'll have to share me, right? She looks at him with a glare, but it's ruined by the blush. What do you mean? She asks, a little annoyed by this. He sighs, well you see where I'm from, if a clan is close to dying out or someone is the last of a bloodline they are put into the craw, which makes sure the clan or bloodline doesn't go extinct. I fall into both those categories, he says, pausing to see her reaction. She takes a breath. What will you do if you have more than girlfriend? She asks. I would love them all equally with all my heart forever, he says. She smiles. I've had a crush on you the moment you came to school, and I can say I do like you, Naruto, and if anyone else does too, I'll be willing to share as long as I can be with you. Because I love you. She says and leans in to kiss him on the lips. He is surprised at first, but then kisses back with equal love. They stay like that for a minute, but then the need to breath becomes too great and they separate. Andromeda leans onto Naruto's shoulder. Wow, she says, still dazed by the kiss. I know, Naruto says. They then lay down and cuddle, then they fall asleep in each other's arms. Alright, there are a few popular choices in the mix to add. By popular demand I'll be adding Athena, kinky if you ask me, Hestia, Artemis, Katie, Aphrodite, also kinky, but it fits, Calypso, Rinnegan, Piper and Femme Nico, sorry for those who didn't want another gender bend. But this was popular. Now I will be accepting 2 people from Naruto's universe to be in the harem, besides Haku. She's already on the list. From time to time, if I see someone legible to be in the harem, I will add them. So enjoy the choices in this chapter. Andromeda was happy. Why, you ask? Well, she passed her Latin final and is on her way home with her friend Grover and her boyfriend Naruto. She will be spending one day with her mom before she heads to this camp for the summer. She isn't even sad she got expelled from Yancy Academy for starting a fight with Nancy. The funny thing is Naruto got expelled too. How? He got caught trying to paint the principal's office orange. Right now they are taking a cab to her apartment. The bus ride is the same, but Grover isn't panicking to meet her mother. Naruto is kinda nervous to meet her, but Andromeda calms him down, saying it will be fine. He calms down a little but is still nervous. When asked why, he answered. Who wouldn't be nervous in meeting their girlfriend's mother for the first time? He says, and they laugh at him, even the cab driver. Then a rain cloud appears above his head. It isn't funny, he says. Akinda is Naruto, Grover says. The rest of the cab ride was them laughing at Naruto. When they get there and knock on the door, they see the person they don't want to see, Gabe. He is a world's class jerk. According to Andromeda, he was a fine like the first 30 seconds they meet him, then he showed his true colors. Hey kid, got any money? Gabe asks. They face fault. No, welcome back, just ask for money. With him? Sure, why not? No, I don't, she lies. Abe raises an eyebrow. You took a cab about 10 blocks away, that's about $23 paid with a. I paid for it, Naruto interrupts. Abe raises his eyebrow yet again at that. Now why would you do that? Gabe asks, then he notices they're holding hands. He smirks. Oh, I see. The gentleman always pays for his lady, Gabe, but you wouldn't know that, would you? Naruto says with a smirk while Andromeda blushes. Abe scowls. Whatever he sees. Naruto whispers something into Andromeda's ear and sees her smile. Abe, I'll give you some money, but you have to let my friends play, Andromeda says. Abe smirks. Sure, as long as he's prepared to lose his money. She hands him the money and walks towards her room with Grover. She then turns around and sees Naruto wink at her. She turns back around and smiles. Looks like Gabe will have to learn the hard way not to play card with Naruto. 10 minutes later, Sally's POV. I was expecting to see a lot of things today. Gabe and his buddies wearing only their boxers crying with their clothes in front of them is not one of them. I ask where Andromeda is and he stops crying for a second and his eyes harden. He points to her room. She's in there with her devil's luck of a boyfriend, he says. Boyfriend? I'm not sure if I heard him right. I'll see what he means when I go see her. I walk towards her door and when I open it, I see her sitting next to a boy with blonde sticky hair with a golden trench coat with orange flames on the bottom with black pants. Across from them is Grover. They are all laughing and inspecting things that I assume to be what the blonde-haired one won from the guys out there. Andromeda then turns towards me and smiles. Mom. She gets up and walks towards me and hugs me. Oh, Andrew, you've grown since Christmas. Thanks, Mom. I look behind her and I see the blonde one smelling sadly at us. I can only wonder why. Who gets this about a boyfriend, I hear from Gabe. I whisper in her ear, deciding to tease her. She blushes but stops so she can introduce me to him. Mom, this is Naruto. Naruto, this is my mom Sally, she says. He hold out his hand to me. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Jackson, he says with a smile. Well, he's well-mannered. I smile. Nice to meet you too, Naruto. Andra has told me about you. He smiles back. I hope they're good things, he jokes. I chuckle. They are mostly good. But your pranks are too funny to be bad. He chuckles. At least some people laugh at my jokes. I lean in to whisper into his ear, just treat my daughter good, Naruto, because if you don't I'll find you. He smiles. I wouldn't dream of hurting her. I smile. Good. I lean back. Now can you tell me what you won from Gabe and his friends? He grins and shakes his head. He's won $1,450, the keys to his Camaro and various DVDs. I shake my head. Well, I hope this teaches him a lesson. Now I see her. I nod. Awesome. Can Naruto and Grover come too? I nod. But you and Naruto don't try anything you hear. I see her face flush in embarrassment and Naruto chuckle at her joke. Mom. I hear her yell. Glad to see I'm not the only one with a sense of humor, I hear Naruto say. When are we leaving? She asks. As soon as I get changed. 5 minutes later, normal POV. We see Naruto, Andromeda, Grover and Sally driving Naruto's new Camaro Montauk. They are talking about the camp from Grover and they are talking about school when. Which reminds me, Naruto. How did you get expelled from Yancy? Andromeda asks. Naruto grins. Well, I was trying to paint the principal's office orange when I got caught in the middle of the act and he caught me. Andromeda's eye narrow. What did you do? You normally wouldn't get caught. Naruto smiles. What, can I not just do it to not let my lady be alone next year? Asks teases. Their face turns red. Serious man, what did you do? Grover asks. You guys wanna know? They all nod, including Sally, who was listening in on the conversation. He counts down from 3 down to 0. They then hear 2 booms, one where Yancy Academy would be and a car next to them, but that one was smaller. That is why you never expelled Naruto Uzumaki from your school, he says with a grin. They all look at him in disbelief. What did you do? Grover asks. I just planted an orange paint bomb in the principal's office and planted smaller ones in the radios of the cars to go off at the same time. That was no bomb. That was a nuke. Andromeda says. Naruto just smiles and says nothing for the rest of the ride. 10 minutes later. They reach the cabin and they clean it for about 10 minutes until it's cleaned. Then they see it only has a queen-size bed and a bunk bed. I'll sleep on their floor, Naruto says. Naruto, it's fine, you can sleep with me, Andromeda says with a blush. Sally smiles. I'll look at my baby growing up before my eyes, she says, making Andromeda blush even more. Naruto looks at her. Are you sure? He asks. She nods. Alright if you're sure. About an hour later they have everything set up and the sun is setting, so they decide to make a fire and just sit around, make s'mores and talk. When the moon is out and the s'mores are gone, they begin to walk inside. Naruto just sits there while they walk inside. You coming, Naruto? Andromeda asks. He turns around and smiles. Just give me a minute. She nods and turns around to head inside. After a few minutes Naruto turns towards the fire. It's nice to meet you, Lady Hestia says, surprising her. How'd you know I was there? She asks. Naruto smiles at her. I'm a ninja, she sensed you in the fire. It's harder to do here, but I can still sense people. Hestia nods. I'm still wondering where you're from and how you're still alive after so many years. I'm pretty sure you're the one that escorted Zoe to the hunters. Naruto nods. I did. By the way, how is she? He asks. Hestia smiles at he's carrying this for his friends. She is fine. Though she was never the same after she met you. I think she has taken a liking to you. Naruto smiles. I suspected she would, but I knew she wanted to join the hunt, so I let her be. Hestia nods then smiles. You know, never in my immortal life have I seen anyone that cares so much for their friends as much as you do. Naruto smiles. Sadly, where I come from I had to cherish the friends I made because they were so few. Why is that? Hestia asks, curious to why he didn't have a lot of friends. Do you believe that if you are the leader of the village you should put it ahead of your family? He asks. Hestia is perplexed with the question. I believe that you should put your family ahead of anything else, not the other way around. That's what I thought. But then I learned as Hokage you have to put your village's needs ahead of your own, Naruto says. You see, 12 years ago there was a demon who attacked my home village. It so happens that I was born on the same day. When the Hokage arrived he attacked the 9-tailed fox. He was the strongest shinobi that ever lived, but you can't kill a tailed beast. You can contain it. So the Hokage a child so it can be sealed, but at the cost of his life. He wanted the boy to be seen as a hero. But whenever the villagers saw him all they saw was the fox, not the hero who contains it. He was beaten, stabbed, poisoned, ignored and kicked out of the orphanage at age 3. The kids didn't know about the 9 tails, but their parents told them to stay away from him. They adopted their parents' attitude. It was hard for him to make friends, but he never backed down. He always got back up no matter what. That boy, he lifts up his shirt and channels chakra, so the seal appears as me. I did learn something though. The Hokage couldn't ask another family for something he wouldn't do. So he used his own child. But I forgave him, he was only doing his duty. By this time Hestia is in tears. How can people treat a child like that? How can a father do that to his own child? Giving up their life before it even started. Her respect for the boy though has grown. She then hears him sigh. Andromeda, you can come out now. I know you're there. Hesitate, eyes widen as Andromeda walks out from behind a tree. She didn't even sense her. I wonder if him and Artemis would get along, Hestia thinks. Andromeda is still crying. Is that true? She asks. Naruto nods yes. I understand if you want to leave me because of it, he says sadly. Andromeda stops crying, walks up to him and kisses him passionately. This surprises him and Hestia. When she stops kissing him she says, I would never leave out Naruto, she says. Naruto smiles and kisses her. Thank you, my Andra-chan. When he looks at her and sees she's blushing, Lady Hestia, as much as I love talking to you, I think Grover and Sally will get worried if we stay here too long. Hestia nods yes. Well, until we meet again, Naruto, and with that she disappears into the fire, which dies out as she leaves. As they enter the room they see Sally asleep and they see Grover laying down. They go to their bed and lay there cuddling until they fall asleep. Naruto and Andromeda's dream. They both look around and see a storm is happening. It seems like the sky is fighting the sea. They then look down the beach and see a horse and an eagle fighting each other. The eagle is hurting the horse badly, but the horse is getting good hits of the eagle too. Just then they see the eagle is about to go in for the kill. They're about to yell no when they feel Grover shake them up. Come on guys, we gotta go, Grover says. Why? Andromeda asks. Naruto stands up and points towards the door. I smell bulls and death. I agree with Grover, come on. They then get up and heads towards the car to head to camp. Naruto looks behind the car nervously. All of a sudden Naruto tenses and looks in front of the car. Sally, watch out. Sally turns the wheel to move the car out of the way, but the car flips over and is stuck in a ditch. After a minute they get out of their daze. Everyone alright? Sally asks. Yeah, we're fine, Grover says. Andromeda sees a horde of monsters approach them. Guys, we gotta go. They then quickly get out of the car and run towards the hill. When Naruto turns around he sees they won't make it in time. He sighs. Grover, I trust you to get them to safety, Naruto says. Grover, Sally and Andromeda looks confused but then looks at the horde and their eyes widen. You can't. I won't let this happen exactly like last time. I won't see another friend die. Grover says. I won't let you leave me, Naruto. Andromeda yells. Naruto kisses her and smiles. I never said I was leaving you, Andra-chan. You guys should know I'll do anything for my friends. Don't worry, I'll be back before you know it, Naruto says. They all cry for what their friend is doing for them. He then hands them each a celestial bronze kunai to defend themselves. He then turns around to face the horde. He sees the numbers are about 150 monsters. There are 50 hellhounds, 35 cyclopses, 35 giants, 30 and Hyperions. Hades, why do you hate me? Naruto thinks. The Hyperions charge in first. The ground freezing where their feet touch the ground. Naruto takes out his sword Void and concentrates to make a sword out of pure fire with his element manipulation. He charges at them and meets them halfway. He stops 20 feet away and slashes his fire sword at them. Fire wave. As he says that, out of the sword comes a wave of fire heading towards the Hyperions. The fire wave takes out 7 and sets 8 on fire, which kills them in seconds. He then charges at the remaining 5 and stabs the first one with Void and slashes at the others with his fire sword, killing them instantly. Next come the Hellhounds. Which he's guessing their weakness is ice, so he channels water and wind energy into the fire sword, creating it into ice. He then stabs it into the ground, which freezes 30 of them to such a degree they shattered once they were frozen. He then sees one try and bite him, but he sidesteps and cuts its head off. He sees 4 charge him, and he takes both swords and channels wind energy into Void. Kinjutsu style. Snowstorm. As he says that, the wind picks up and the temperature drops below 0. The remaining hellhounds are frozen in place dead. The cyclopses and giants charge together at him. He slams his hands on the ground and wooden spikes come out of the ground and they impale 30 of the cyclopses and giants. He then unsealed Teen's bronze kunai and kills the rest of the cyclopses. He relaxes for a second before he tenses and looks behind him. He sees the Minotaur choking Sally, but Sally disappear in a golden light. He's worried, but he can tell she didn't die. He then runs towards them to make sure they don't die from the Minotaur. He then sees Andromeda jump on top of its back, yank on its horn and fall off. She then sits down, fumbles with the horn, then stabs him in the heart with his own horn. Can I say irony? Naruto thinks. He then sees she is about to pass out and before Grover could get to her, Naruto does. It's okay, Andra-chan. I got you, she nods and passes out. He turns to Grover. Led the way, he says as he puts Andromeda on his back. When they pass the magical borders, Naruto senses a soul in the pine tree. He decides to ask ladder. He begins to follow Grover towards a big house. When they get closer he sees it's a bigger than average house. When they reach the door and Grover knocks. He sees Chiron and a blonde-haired girl answer the door. Hey, Chiron had to come here earlier than expected, Naruto says. Chiron nods but sees that Andromeda is on his back and he's covered in monster dust. What happened? Chiron asks, concerned about her. She just passed out after fighting Bullface. Well, I was fighting a horde of monsters for them to get to safety, Naruto says. Tyron, Grover and Annabeth are thinking the same thing. We couldn't be more like me, Thalia and Luke, even if they tried. Well Naruto, thanks to your effort they got to safety, but how many did you have to fight and what happened to her mother? Naruto and Grover take a pained expression. Andromeda's mother was taken by someone, most likely a god, Naruto says. And how many did you fight? He asks, questioning if he wants to know. Naruto thinks for a second, about 150. Tyron looks at him. Well, Annabeth has wide eyes. They look at Grover to see if he's lying to the. There were that many. He isn't lying, Grover says. Before you guys say anything, can we bring Andromeda to the sickbay? Naruto asks. Tyron nods. 15 minutes later. Now Naruto, that was pretty reckless, don't you think? Chiron asks. Naruto shakes his head. Chiron, you know I'll do anything for my friends, so nothing is too far for me to do for my friends. Now who is this with you, Chiron? Chiron smiles. Naruto, this is Annabeth. Naruto smiles at her. It's nice to meet you, Annabeth, Naruto says. Annabeth smiles back. Nice to meet you too, Naruto, blushing barely enough for only Naruto to tell. I thought I have feelings for Luke, but here I am trying to hide a blush from a guy I just meet. Naruto chooses to ignore it and looks at Chiron. Do you mind telling Mr. D where I am from, Chiron? Chiron nods. Why would it matter where you're from, Naruto? Annabeth asks. Naruto looks at her. Well, I'm not from around here. I am in fact from another dimension, he says. Chiron face palms while Annabeth eyes wide in a whole new dimensions. So many questions to ask and to be answered. Annabeth, you can ask your questions later. Right now we have to tell Mr. D about Naruto predicament. Naruto shakes his head. There's no need, Chiron, I'm sure Dionysus heard everything. Just then Mr. D comes out from the shadows. Well, at least some demigods have a brain to know who I am. But how did you sense me? Dionysus asks, shocking the other two at his presence. The dimension where I'm from have ninja who can do feats that seem impossible. One of these is sensing someone when they can't be seen. By the way, how do you like the battle? Naruto asks. He smiles, one of his rare smiles which shock the two even further. I haven't seen a battle that interesting since the mysterious hero fought in Echidna and her kids. Now that hero is one I would like to meet. Dionysus says with so much emotions it looks like Annabeth and Chiron will faint. Naruto smiles. It's nice to meet a fan, Dionysus. Mysterious hero at your service. Dionysus and Annabeth eyes widen when he says that. Mr. D points a shaky finger at Naruto. You're the mysterious hero. The one who upstaged Hercules. Naruto nods. The jerk deserved to be upstaged after he betrayed a person who helped him. This was news to Annabeth and Dionysus. All, who was this person? Annabeth asks. It's not my place to tell you, Naruto says. They nod, respecting the answers. Dionysus, I would appreciate if you don't report me to Olympus yet, at least until I get claimed. Dionysus nods, respecting one of the only heroes he ever respected. Oh, before I forget, I'm not immortal. Before I was sent to this time, I was sent to the past by my mother to fix someone's destiny. They are curious about who his mother is. To have the ability to go back in time has not been down with any other demigod. Whoever your mother is, she must be powerful, Chiron says. The others nod in agreement. Chiron, can I talk to you and Mr. D alone? Naruto says. Chiron was about to ask why when he sees the serious look on Naruto's face. Chiron nods and tells Grover and Annabeth to leave for a minute while he talks to Naruto. After they leave, Naruto asks Chiron, can you tell me why I feel a soul stuck in that big pine tree? Naruto asks. Chiron and Dionysus tense when he says that. What do you mean? Chiron asks. Just like it sounds. There is a soul in that tree, Naruto says. So she may not be dead, Dionysus says. It seems so, Mr. D, Chiron says. What do you mean? Naruto asks. Chiron sighs. You see, Naruto, not that long ago someone else was in your same position to protect her friends. They were chased all the way to that hill. She told them to go and she'd hold them off. She fought hard, but in the end she couldn't win. Just as she was about to die, her father Zeus turned her into that pine tree. Her spirit strengthens the borders around the camp to this day, Chiron says, finishing the girl's tale. What was her name? Naruto asks. Thalia, Dionysus says. Naruto, I want you to try to contact her if you can. Okay. Naruto nods, but can this wait for morning? Chiron nods yes. Okay, we'll do this in the morning, Naruto says. Next morning, Thalia's tree. Alright, Chiron, I'll give it a go, just don't move me, okay? Naruto says. Chiron nods. Well, here I go, Naruto says as he touches the tree and loses consciousness. When he wakes up, he sees he's in an empty version of camp, but he hears someone crying. Naruto sighs. Why does everything important he does there is a girl crying? He thinks to himself. He then reaches Zeus's cabin and he sees a girl crying. She is wearing Roll's jeans, a black leather jacket with a Death to Barbie shirt underneath. When he gets next to her, he holds her to comfort her. She is surprised that she is feeling someone else after so long. Please let you be real, she asks. Naruto smiles. I am. She is shocked that he responds, but she then notices the position they are in, then blushes. Hi, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. What's your name? Naruto asks looking into her electric blue eyes. I am Thalia, daughter of Zeus. I woke up today in my prison not expecting ally of things to happen like always. I did not expect this guy to just appear and comfort me when I'm crying because I'm alone. His name's Naruto and he seems like a good guy. I smile. You seem like a nice guy, Naruto, I say. He smiles. I try my best, he says. Do you mind telling me about yourself? I ask. He smiles at me. Well, since you ask nicely. I like Ramen, my friends, people precious to me, foxes in training. I dislike those who abandon their friends, those who are arrogant because of their power or status, those who don't take their careers seriously, and the time it takes to cook ramen. My dreams for the future are to be the best male demigod who ever lived. I take in what he says. He sounds very familiar to me, I think to myself. Well, Naruto, thanks for telling me. But I'm curious, how did you know about me? I ask. Well, do you want the part before I got here too, or my when Chiron told me? He asks. All of it, I say. Well, me and my friends Andromeda, her mom Sally, and Grover. My eyes widen. Grover. Is he alright? I ask. He nods. Yes, he's safe, but can I ask where you know him from? I nod yes. And me, Luke and Annabeth were going to camp together when a horde attacked us when we were about to make it. I told Grover to protect them while I defend them. I fell in battle by a cyclops, but my dad turned me into a tree to save me, but I was alone. I then start to cry, but he comforts me and says I'll never leave you. I blush at that. Thank you. He smiles at me, which makes me feel warm. You know, he begins, how you made it to camp is so much like mine, it's scary. I look at him. What do you mean? I ask. Well, you see, we were also attacked by a horde, but I told Grover to protect them while I hold them off. He told me he didn't want this to turn out like last time, but he said yes. He, Andromeda and Sally headed up a hill while I held off the horde. The monsters probably thought easy win, but they didn't expect a demigod who wields all the elements to attack them. My eyes widen at that. You can wield all the elements. How? I ask. He sighs. Well, you see, I'm not from this world. I am actually from a different dimension. He says, shocking her, but she will ask about it later. Well, you see, after I defeated them I turn around and see Sally disappear in a golden light. After that Andromeda passes out and I carry her to camp. I feel jealous at that. Why do I feel jealous? When we passed a barrier I felt a soul stuck in a tree. When I asked Chiron about it he told me about you and well, here I am. That is quite the story you have, I say. He nods. Well, I should get back. Chiron is probably worried, he says. You'll come back, won't you? I ask. He smiles. Of course I'll come back. I smile at him. Good, I'll see you later, Naruto. He nods and disappears, leaving me alone again. Naruto, I whisper to myself. Outside world, normal Pav. Naruto wakes up to see Chiron waiting for him. Naruto smiles. Hey Chiron, how long was I in there? You were in there for about 4 hours, Chiron says. Wow, that long, huh? Well, just so you know, she is fine, Naruto says. Chiron smiles. That's good to hear. So Chiron, can I get a tour of the camp while I wait for Andromeda to wake up? Naruto asks. Chiron nods. Of course, but let me get a camper or two to show you around. Naruto nods as they walk back to the big house. He waits while Chiron goes and gets the 2 campers. When he returns he sees 2 campers. One girl has brown hair and brown eyes and is wearing a camp half-blood shirt and jeans. She has a muscular build, but not too bulky. The other girl has brown hair and blue eyes. She's wearing a camp half-blood shirt too and blue jeans that fit her slim figure. Ah, Naruto, meet Selena and Claris, Chiron says. The girl with blue eyes walks up to him. Hi, I'm Selena, and that's Claris, Selena says while pointing to Claris. Naruto smiles. Nice to meet you both. Shall we get on with the tour, Naruto? Selena asks. He smiles. Of course. You and Claris lead the way. After they walk for a while they get to the cabins. Listen up, I'm only going to say this once, Claris says. There are 12 cabins, each one represents a different main Olympian god. Depending on who your parent is where you live. Now that that's out of the way, it's time for your initiated. She makes a grab for Naruto. But she didn't expect for him to go off into smoke and the feeling of a blade on the back of her neck. I don't think I like to be initiated, Naruto says. Selena and Claris' eyes widen. They didn't even see him move. And what was that smoke? Naruto, can I ask what that smoke? Selena asks. Naruto smiles at her. Well, since you were nice enough to give me a tour, I'll tell you. Even though Mr. D will tell everyone in a few days anyways. Where I come from, control the elements using chakra, which is spiritual energy. With that people can do jutsus and world elements. Most can only do 1 or 2, but I can do them all. Back to the smoke. That was a shadow clone, which is a solid copy of yourself, but dispels after 1 hit. They stare at him. Chakra, shadow clones. Who is this guy, both girls think. After the tour he went back to the big house to wait for Andromeda to wake up. After 2 more days she wakes up. She was depressed to hear her mother didn't make it. She said she is fine, but Naruto can tell she isn't. They are currently at a table on the porch after a talk with Mr. D. "So Andromeda, how are you adjusting?" Chiron asks. "I'm fine, Chiron," she says. Chiron smiles. "Good. Well, we should give you the tour then," he says, roaming out of his wheelchair. "Hey there, I'm going to combine 2 chapters from the book her, but to make it up I'll make my own." As Chiron gives the tour, Naruto sees Andromeda paying attention, trying to see everything here has to offer. They are just finishing up the tour when they see Annabeth in front of the Hermes cabin. Annabeth, will you show them their cabin?" "I have master's archery to attend," Chiron asks. "Sure, Chiron," Annabeth says. They walk towards an old-style kind of cabin. The only normal-looking one in the entire camp. When they are about to enter they stop for a sec to look in. They see a lot of kids with blonde hair and upturned noses. They also see the mischief in their eyes. "I'll have a lot of fun here," Naruto thinks to himself. "Well, don't just stand there," Annabeth says. They both walk in and are greeted by an older kid there with blonde hair, about 16. "Hi there, the name's Luke," the now identified Luke says. Naruto smirks and decides to make himself known as a prankster. Andromeda sees this and smiles. He then coats his hand in the electricity elements and hides it with a gain jutsu. "Nice to meet you," Naruto says before he takes his hand and shakes it. As he shakes his hand, Luke stiffens as the electricity goes through his body. He doesn't even know how. After the handshake is done he smells his hand burning. "What the check was that?" he asks while 2 people who look exactly the same have wide smiles to see a fellow prankster. "Oh, that will be explained at dinner," Naruto says. Luke nods but worries to see another prankster. He then turns to Andromeda. "And who are you?" Luke asks. Andromeda smiles. "I'm Andromeda. The name's Luke. You'll be sleeping over there on the floor." "Sorry, but there's only room for one, so you'll have to share," Luke says. Naruto shrugs while Andromeda blushes a deep red. "Come on, I'll show you the volleyball court," Annabeth says. They nod and follow her out, Andromeda still slightly embarrassed. "What was that, Naruto?" Annabeth asks. What, Naruto asks innocently. Annabeth rolls her eyes. "You know what I mean. It's just a harmless prank. Don't worry, it will be explained at dinner," Naruto says. Annabeth isn't satisfied with the answer but decides to wait until dinner. As they walk around they walk near a red-painted cabin with a nasty paint job. "Well, a newbie," voice says behind them. "Good to see you again, Clarice," Naruto says without looking around. They turn around and see Naruto was right. There was Clarice standing behind them. "I hope you're not thinking about initiating Andromeda here," he says, releasing some killing intent directed at her. She starts to sweat a little and Annabeth sees this and raises an eyebrow. She backs away in defeat. "Of course not." She says this and Annabeth's eyes widen. No one's ever beat Clarice and he beat her without even touching her. Who is this guy? 5 hours later. They finish the tour again with no more problems. They finished up and learned Annabeth's mother is Athena. They then head back to their cabins for dinner. They see Luke with a bag. "Hey, I stole you some toiletries," he says with a smile. Andromeda looks uneasy but Naruto smiles. "Thanks," they both say. "No problem, just be ready for dinner." They nod and the cabin begins to file out. 11 fallen, Luke says. They sit at their table in seniority. So of course Naruto and Andromeda are dead last. They receive a goblet. "Tell it what you want. It's magic so it fills with whatever you want. Non-alcoholic of course," Luke says. They nod. Naruto fills with Pepsi and Andromeda's fills with blue cherry coke. When they are giving their food Naruto asks one of the nymphs for something only she hears. She nods her head and she comes back with a bowl of ramen. Naruto was so grateful he hugged her. Much to her embarrassment. When they are done getting their food they get up and offer to the gods, which Naruto warned Andromeda beforehand. When it is Naruto's turn the flames turn black with a small galaxy in the middle, but that only lasts 2 seconds. He turns around and sees other people saw it by their expressions. When he and his cabin mates are done eating Mr. D stand up to make an announcement. "Yes, well, remember that capture the flag is this Friday and we have 2 new campers today. Ally Johnson and Naruto Uzumaki." Tyron leans in and tells him something. "My mistake, Andromeda Jackson." But he was done. They were led by the Apollo cabin for a sign along. Mr. D stayed for 2 songs before leaving. When Naruto looks to his left he sees Andromeda smiling and laughing. She seems at home. He takes an arm and puts it around her shoulder. When he looks towards the fire he sees the smiling face of Hestia. Naruto and Andromeda have been doing a good job of settling into camp. It was a little difficult at first, but they got used to it. Andromeda and Naruto can tell the head counselors are trying to see who their godly parent is, but they haven't had much luck. Andromeda wasn't really good at anything besides canoeing. Naruto is a different story. Everything he does better than the instructors and always beats his challengers. That included swordsmanship. Many people were not expecting him to just easily beat Luke, the best swordsman in the last 100 years. Naruto has been talking to Thalia every day. She has become very interested where he's from. They also just talk about themselves. On the second day he talked to her, he told her about QB and how he was treated. She cried for 10 minutes. When he asked if she sees him differently, she replies, "Of course, all I see is Naruto Uzumaki." He smiles and hugs her, seeing the blush on her face. Right now we see them and Grover sitting at the end of the pier talking to him. "So Grover, how's your dream coming?" Naruto asks. Grover flinched. The council says they need more time to tell if it was adequate or not. Naruto nods. "Grover, even if they say no, don't let that get in the way of your dream." Andromeda nods. "He's right, Grover. Don't let a council decide for you." Grover smiles. "Thanks, guys. I needed that." After that they begin to talk about the major Greek gods and which ones were better. After a while they decided to group back later. We see them later sitting at the dinner table. There is more excitement than usual. Today was the day for capture the flag. "Heroes, you know the rules. No maiming. Prisoners cannot be bound or gagged, and the creek is the border. Have fun," Chiron says. They all get set up for the game with little problems. Naruto walks over towards Annabeth. "What's the plan?" he asks. She frowns. "We can't have a perfect plan until we see what they do first. If it's too hard to see, I can make a torch." Annabeth. She raises an eyebrow. "Though no one but Naruto can see it, how you plan on that?" "Before I do it, remember, I don't know my parent, but it's my mom." She nods. He picks up some dry sticks and unseals some cloth to burn, then lights it on fire, shocking her and those around. "Here," he says with a grin. "That only solves half of the problem. Now we need data," Annabeth says. He grins at her. "Annabeth, what if I told you I could get us data?" Her eyes narrow. "How you plan on that, Naruto?" "Somewhere in the US hunters camp minutes before Zoe's path. I and my fellow hunters were sitting at our table eating our meal when I see my lady step out of her tent holding a letter." "My lady, what is that?" I ask, pointing at the letter. Artemis takes a breath. "Wells, oh, I just received a letter from Chaos," she says, letting that sink in. Every hunter who is listening eyes widen, including mine. "What does it say?" I ask hesitantly. Artemis frowns. "Well, the letter says we should watch Camp Half-Blood's annual Capture the Flag game. But we hate it there. Why would she want us to watch?" One of my fellow hunters protests. Artemis looks at everyone. "She said she wanted one of you to see an old friend." Now it was time for us to frown. "An old friend, what could that mean?" Artemis continues. "I for one see no downside to this, and it's an easy request." At this point almost all the hunters frown. Which one of them would have a friend at that camp? Among these people are Zoe. We see Artemis in a giant crystal bowl big enough for all to see. When the orb focused and I see all the campers setting up for their game. The sun just set, so it is kinda dark to see anyone. After everyone is set up and they begin walking, the orb focuses on two figures that are in the front. "What's the plan?" I hear a male say. The one next to him frowns. "We can't have a perfect plan until we see what they do first. If it's too hard to see, I can make a torch." Annabeth. The one now known as Annabeth raises an eyebrow. "How you plan on that?" "Before I do it, remember, I don't know my parent, but it's my mom." I think to myself, why would that be important? The girl nods. He picks up some dry sticks and some cloth appears warped it around the sticks and then lights it on fire, shocking her and those around. "Here," he says with a grin. "That only solves half of the problem. Now we need data," Annabeth says. He grins at her. "Annabeth, what if I told you I could get us data?" He saws looking towards her. We finally see him for the first time and I can't help but feel like I know him. The warm yet mischievous grin he was on his face. I decide to take a drink out of my drink, which is water in a glass cup. Her eyes narrow. "How you plan on that, Naruto?" I froze. And accidentally break my cup. Did she just say Naruto? The hunters and Artemis look at me in concern while An fixes my hand. "What's wrong, Zoe?" one hunter asks me. I use my non-injured hand and point shakily at the orb. "Did she say Naruto?" I asks. She looks at me then nods. I look at him again and see it is Naruto. My eyes widen, confusing the other hunters, except for Phone, the only hunter I told who helped me get here. I see her eye me and, "Are you sure it's that Naruto, Zoe?" Phone asks me. I nod. "There's no doubt he is that Naruto. No one else has whisker marks and blonde hair," I say, confusing every hunter there, and Artemis just look at me. "So what are you talking about?" Artemis asks. "Well, you see, when I was traveling to join the hunt, I didn't come here alone. You see, Naruto brought me here to help me." She frowns. "What are you talking about, Zoe? He surely must have died by now." I look at her. That's what I thought too, but it doesn't seem like it. He is probably the only decent male I have ever met. I finish. "And how is he different from the rest?" a hunter asks angrily. I look at her. "He is different when He could have used my situation to his advantage. He helped me here and didn't want anything in return. He defended me against some of the strongest monsters. Well, I retreated with one of his clones. Artemis looks at me. So that sounds like that one hero. I smile at her. That's because I've is that hero. Her eyes widen at that before she calms down. So if this was normal, I'd say I don't believe you, but I believe you because of what he did just under a week ago, she says. The hunters and I look at her. What did he do? I ask, intrigued to see what he did now. Artemis has that faraway look. Well, you see, Zoe. When he was on his way to camp with his friend, her mother and Grover, they were attacked by a horde of 250 monsters, as she says that every hunter's eyes widen. When he saw there was no escape unless they fought, so he stayed behind to fight them, the hunters, and my eyes widen. As you can tell, he succeeded in beating them and is safely at camp. Artemis finishes and looks back at the orb. We all do the same, but stay in stunned silence. Woods of Camp Half-Blood, same time. So all I have to do is send some clones and transform them into objects, then dispel them to get the information, Naruto says. Annabeth's eyes widen. Naruto, that's genius. Are you sure you're not Athena's son? Naruto chuckles. I'm sure, and if you guys mind, I'd like to explain about my abilities later. They all nod as he creates some clones to spy on the enemy team. After about 5 minutes after the horn is sounded, he gets a rush of information. He grins. Alright, there are 20 people in the main group heading towards us from the center. There is a group of 8 flanking from the right and 7 from the left. There is about 3 guarding the flag. Annabeth smiles. Alright, we'll have 5 groups. Group A will have 15 people and will fight the center group. Group B will have 10 and attack the right group. Group C will have 10 and attack the left. Group D will have 8 and they will defend the flag. Finally, Group E, who will be Naruto and 2 of his choosing, will go after the flag. Since this plan is thanks to him, they all nod in agreement. After the groups are set up, Naruto, Andromeda and Annabeth head out. They soon hear the sounds of battle. They agree the trees would be faster. Naruto offers to carry them to go faster. They agree, but not without blushing. He creates 2 shadow clones, then takes to the trees. They soon see the flag. And Naruto, being Naruto, decides to prank the other team. He makes another shadow clone, then he transforms it into the enemy's flag, then switches it with the real one, using his superior speed to not get noticed. When they make it to the creek, he dispels the clone, surprising the defenders, and then crossing the creek, winning the game. They are too busy celebrating, they don't notice a hellhound until Naruto senses it. All the celebrating dies down right as he's about to stab it and kill it. It gets a good slash against Andromeda's arm, and she falls into the creek. Annabeth's eyes widen. Die immortal. That was a hellhound from the fields of punishment. They're not suppose. Someone summoned it. Someone inside the camp. Naruto goes and checks to see if Andromeda's arm is fine. To his surprise, it is healing by itself. He stands back up. Just as he's about to say something, a green trident appears above her head. He smiles. Well, Andra-chan. Seems like we know who your father. She smiles back. Yeah. They turn to see a stunned-looking camp, but they begin to kneel, then Naruto grins and takes their example. All hail Andromeda Jackson. Daughter of storms and the ocean. Hail daughter of Poseidon, god of the sea, Chiron says. Right as he finishes, above Naruto's head as well. His symbol is the galaxy. They all gulp in fear. Tyrant, she never had a demigod child, has she? Annabeth asks. No. Not until now. He takes a breath. All hail Naruto Uzumaki, son of chaos. The universe in space. All hail Naruto, son of the universe goddess. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.